what do you think are the challenges in India that you cannot learn from any podcast or any book or anything else?
Ah, so I think in India you have to learn to and enjoy. You have to thrive in chaos. So I think, and I really enjoy that. So there's a lot happening. Things change or move very fast in almost every dimension. And I think you have to be very, very nimble. You have to be also comfortable with the ambiguity that it brings. And it's not a linear kind of an ecosystem. It's like bunch of things happening, all that. So you just have to kind of be a little bit okay with things not moving as per plan, and then other things happen. So I think it's a great opportunity, but it's not a playbook opportunity for the most part, because what you learn in business school and in other ecosystems, a lot of other structured ecosystems, I would say, is the path is linear. You have a logical, you make a product, that product scales, you make an offering, you make a process, that process scales, it's more efficient than the status quo and this and that. In India, you just realize that there are way more variables that just show up. The space I operate in specifically is healthcare. So amongst the many other variables, there's a huge variable of a trade union on one side of things. Doing innovation in a regulated sector is another part of that. So they keep throwing up something at you, and you keep kind of dealing with it as it comes. So a lot of those things are very unique to the Indian ecosystem.
You brought up regulation, so let's start with that.
Sure.
I mean, regulatory risk is a risk anyway, in India specifically. You've chosen the segment of healthcare, which is a very big deal, right? I mean, it's a huge opportunity, but there's a whole issue of pricing caps, generics, and so on. So why did you choose this sector, and what have been the surprises along the way?
So I think this sector, number one, is one of those sectors which presents probably the largest opportunity out there that I can see. Healthcare is a huge market that is not working for a lot of patients, and there is pain and there is scale. Now these are the two ingredients that make a big opportunity. So if you're solving a problem that is felt in a market with scale, that's exciting. That's where big businesses can be created. So I think so it starts with that and I understood healthcare quite a bit. I used to work in healthcare as a consultant with McKinsey in the US. So I'd seen in that kind of a setting how the models were. I could see certain areas in the Indian ecosystem where a change was kind of crying to happen, and it was needed. So I felt this is probably one of the largest opportunities yet to be unlocked, and it's not an easy one. And it does test a lot of skills, a lot of areas that you need to kind of navigate, negotiate your way. So it's a large opportunity. Once you crack it, it's a very defensible opportunity. So I would say from an entrepreneur's perspective, it has all the ingredients of being an attractive space.
So what has been the regulatory challenge?
So see, fundamentally, when it's a regulated sector, the job of the regulator is to maintain status quo. The job of the innovator is to break the status quo. How do they still work together? So in my case, say e-pharmacy or telemedicine, there were always this question of, in these new models that are coming, are they covered under the ambit of the current regulation? Do the regulators have to move in to deal with this new change? Is the move going to be supportive or to constrain this? So there's a lot of regulation typically, and certainly in India, it catches up with innovation, and if you're fundamentally kind of doing the right thing, things kind of move at their own pace, but they do move in the right direction. That's what I
This is
see.
a famous WhatsApp that went viral. Is that I heard you sort of
Yeah.
being quoted
Yeah.
that if you're doing the right thing by the customer, then that's your marketing, right?
Yeah. I think that's certainly true. If you continue to do the right thing, the regulation kind of does follow,
But has anything surprised you in your journey so far, on the regulation front? Because the impression that people have of India is that there is regulatory uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
Now, I know you started with saying India itself is uncertain, and that's the market,
Yeah.
right? But regulatory uncertainty is kind of a big risk.
Yeah, so, I think, but the uncertainty, the way I see it is, it's if the macro trajectory is in the right direction, there will be some ups and downs. Anyone playing in India as a entrepreneur or investor has to be kind of okay with it, but believe in the macro. That in the end, and it's not that long a horizon, in a foreseeable future, things will go in that right direction. Now, regulatory uncertainty is certainly not a desirable thing for investors, and I think the country needs to do a lot more in that direction. That while I think the statement of intent is encouraging, the regulatory changes need to move faster than they do right now. And in the world that startups live in, time is kind of the survival kit. Like if you run out of time before you run out of any other thing. So you need faster regulatory clarity this way or that, because once the rules are defined, it makes things a lot easier for especially investors.
Okay, so generics is one that is a kind of a hot topic.
Sure.
What do the global multinational sort of pharmaceutical companies think of you? Do they like you? Not?
I hope they do.
Are you growing the market for them?
I think we are certainly bringing the consumer actively into the conversation. The consumer is now asking a bunch of questions, is participating a lot more actively, and whether again a model, anyone who was building a business with a model that would not work for the consumer is kind of it's a short-term kind of a hack. It's not a sustainable business, I think.
Doesn't all of healthcare globally sort of work
Yes.
on not being for the consumer?
And that's the opportunity.
We make people sick to start with. Oh, have sugar, have nicotine, have this, have that, and then let us help you fix it.
So, and I think the big change is that the consumer has now started getting a lot more active about what are their options, what are their choices, what is being done to them, and why. For the longest time, they have been trained to believe that healthcare is a space where it's beyond your understanding, don't even try, and just kind of keep quiet and follow. Now the consumers don't like it, so they've started looking out for sources of information and transparency. Again, I think it's a very fundamental shift happening in healthcare. That's the reason we focused on this space, that this fundamental shift is going to create or change new models. And I think like in any other structural shift, some will understand it, accept it, and participate in it and thrive as a result, and some will suffer if they refuse to acknowledge that the change is happening.
Right.
So,
coming back to leaving healthcare aside, coming back to you being an entrepreneur.
yes.
What do you still want from the ecosystem, from the government, from any other stakeholders? Is there something that you say you wish was better here? And then there's a whole kind of talk about India is not good enough, and therefore we should move to Singapore and stuff. So what's your take?
I think the only thing we seek as entrepreneurs is quick response and clear responses. If the rules of the game need to be defined, because we need investors to feel confident about investing in India. No one doubts the size of the opportunity. The only question on mind is the regulatory risk too high or manageable? And giving that comfort is very important. I think so. the government still needs to kind of organize itself to, and I'll give you a direct example, e-pharmacy. We've been working with the government for over more than 3 years now. Very supportive, directionally all great, but it's still an ongoing conversation. I believe it could have been solved in 1 week with the right people sitting together with intent. But these things just take in an inordinate amount of time. A lot of it is structural reason. The way we are structured is not the way the world is in future will look like. Like the ministries are also health, technology, commerce. Now here is a business that does commerce with healthcare technology and a lot of other things. It's very hard for entrepreneurs to get bounced around into and keep dealing with that.
But that's par for course, right? If you are innovating, by definition, you will invent something that the government regulation is not ready for, right? So.
Yeah, you asked me for my wish list. That's what because I don't need any tax breaks or capital intense incentives or this or that.
So angel tax is fine with you?
No, not at all fine. That's a additional onerous tax expectation for something that should not be taxed. That's not fine. All we are saying is the playing field should be clear, level, easy, and then we go and compete. That's kind of what all we want.
So in the private sector, so being, have you seen in your lifetime as an entrepreneur, have you seen the conversations that investors have with you?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you raised money from VC funds and stuff.
Yeah.
How has that changed over the past few years? Is that getting better?
A lot. I think when we started, in 2011 I raised capital for HealthCart, then 2015 onwards 1MG, and between the two, 9 rounds of funding. So we've dealt quite a lot with institutional investors in this journey. Certainly the way they look at the market, the opportunity, the risk, the entrepreneurs, a lot of maturity has come in the ecosystem. I think the investors themselves have matured quite a bit. The ecosystem or the quality of both entrepreneurs and investors was very raw in 2011, and now it's matured quite a lot.
So neither side knew what the other one was doing?
Neither side knew what they were doing. The other one is a stretch.
So when you say investors have matured, you admit that entrepreneurs have also matured, right?
Yeah, certainly. And as I'm saying, the ecosystem was raw. There were very few role models. There were very few kind of folks you could go to for any basic advice or you didn't know much about others who might have dealt with these kind of things. And neither had the investors seen a lot of those patterns. 5, 6, 8 years down the line, everyone is kind of wiser.
Right. Okay. So what else would you like to see? Anything specifically that you would say? IVCA is obviously very active in the kind of AIF space.
Yeah.
And you are sort of a second order beneficiary from that.
Correct.
Is there anything that you would say to the IVCA that they could do more of?
I think IVCA, I would love to see them also participate in the conversations with the regulators and the government, especially in the cases where innovation is happening in a regulated industry and regulatory support is required, because IVCA is also a stakeholder and has a voice. So we would like them to be also actively participating in these kind of conversations, that yes, this sector, these new technologies, we need a better framework to move forward. Drones, AI, telemedicine, e-pharmacy, a lot of things are kind of still, they've been going through a journey where entrepreneurs are dealing with it. I think IVCA can bring a different lens and a lot of added support on that.
Except they're obviously the funds management body. Entrepreneurs have their own kind of sort of
we have our own association, but I think the investors are also like all our investors, or many of them I believe would be members of IVCA anyway. So I would like to see because a transparent regulatory ecosystem is for everyone's benefit. And right now there's no concept of can an investor go to a government body and get a response that I am investing in this kind of a business model? Is it okay? It, somebody should just say not okay or okay. Somebody should give an answer. So those, right now there's no such forum.
Sounds like another business idea to me. Someone goes and scans all the regulations and says, yeah, looks
No,
like...
so the way it works is we go to all the lawyers and the big four accounting firms, ask them to give opinions, and people rely on that.
Do you think the ease of doing business in India, which people say has improved a lot, do you buy that? Has it improved a lot?
Oh yeah, that's I have to admit it has improved a lot. So again, when anyone asks for a wish list, there's a lot more that needs and should be done. But from where we were, I think we have come a long way, because I have seen that now, at least it's 100% expected that if you write to a government body or a government official, you get a good hearing, that you get a lot of support. They are kind of the primary mode is to try and support and help. They still need to navigate their own systems. That's where I think they need to do more work, but the support and encouragement itself is a big deal. As I remember, I've been to the ministries earlier also. I've been told multiple times that perhaps you should just shut down your startup and you're well qualified, find a job.
Seriously?
So from there to now, everyone is like, of course. So the senior people in the government bureaucracy are very encouraging that you are doing the right thing. Keep at it. We are there. We will support, but be patient. So I think have been patient, and I'm continuing to be patient. But one would like those things to actually move even faster if they could. But yeah, I think we have come a long way and we are going in the right direction. So I have to give it that.
Okay. Any other last parting thoughts for the PE, VC industry or investors at large globally?
I think the good times are just beginning. India is just at the inflection point. So I think we are seeing a confluence of four very important things right now in India. So I would say it's a very exciting time to be here as an entrepreneur and as an investor, because what does it need? One, it needs an ecosystem which has abundance of talent, which we have. It needs a large market. Our markets are now becoming deeper and larger. It needs a structural shift in the ecosystem, and I think with geo happening and a bunch of other things, there are a lot more people who have just come onto the digital web. They have accessed a new world, and there exists no model to serve them. Those things will evolve. Those things are getting exciting. And the fourth part is, as a technology, AI, machine learning, data sciences, the quantity of data that India can generate can be rivaled only by China. And a lot of the future models of AI are probably going to be built out of India if they get, I would say, support and capital and talent because all these things have to come together for a outsized organization or companies to kind of develop. That's how, when automation was a big deal, the IBMs of the world kind of took over. When the internet was taking off, that's when Google, Amazon, and a bunch of other good large companies come. The next wave is AI and data, and in India is where it should be the theater of action.
So you're going to say, "Apna time aayega."
Aa gaya.
Apna time aa gaya.
This is the next decade. I'm very optimistic.